Okay, I am back for a part two of Sense and Sensibility. I actually want to shout out the cast, so why don't we just look at the cast, some of their names a little bit closer. I couldn't find, so that's Deborah right in the middle, that's Dan over there, and to the left, let's figure out what the actress's name that played Marianne. Let me just, I always like to show some of the cast. That's not always that easy. When it comes to doing reviews because they don't always have all the pictures up. But let's see. Okay, so this was our two leads. I already told you, Deborah Ayarinde played Eleanor, Dan Junut played Edward. All right, I don't know if we can see the name of the actress. It's under the recording, but I just wanted to show like some of the actors and actresses. Hold on. Okay, so I took you back. So the actress that played Marianne Dashwood was Bethany Antonia. Sorry, I had to pause on that. It's like a whole daggone cast. Okay, so where do we leave off? In review one, I told you that the Dashwood sisters, their father passed away, so their stepbrother inherited everything, and he was supposed to make sure that they were going to be okay, but he didn't. They had to leave their manor and move in with some distant cousins in the country and into this like beautiful little cottage, and their whole lives are changing and they're trying to maneuver love. But before the Dashwood sisters leave the manor that they grew up in because their father had passed away, they actually meet Fanny, or one of Fanny's brothers, Edward, played by Dan Junut. And Edward and Eleanor, they hit it off right away. They have chemistry, and you're kind of like wondering what's going on. Then there's Marianne, okay? Once Marianne heads to the countryside, one day she kind of falls, rolls down a hill and everything, and this guy is on a horse, and he rolls up all smooth. Let me just show you the guy, okay? Hold on. So this is the guy, Mr. Willoughby, John, that sees Marianne. You know, her and Margaret were playing, but once they kind of spotted him, Margaret was running towards John to kind of make fun of Marianne and say, like, Marianne thinks he's kind of hot. John sees Marianne take a tumble and, like, he loves him a little damsel in distress, and he rolls up on her. Now, he rolls up on her, like, a little too smooth, right? He rolls up on her smooth, and these two, Marianne and John, they have instant chemistry. But guess what this taught me? Oh, my goodness. I learned so much from these two characters. Baby, even in the 1800s, they got F-boys, or as us Jamaicans call them, wees man, wees a time man. Okay? That's what John was. He swept Marianne up off her feet. She thought she really found love. She over there telling Eleanor, like, girl, marriage needs to always be about love. Meanwhile, the Colonel is over there falling for Marianne. He met her first, but she seems to have a lot in common with John. John's a slick talker. He's sexy. And let me just tell you something. The tumbling that Marianne did down that hill was foreshadowing what this relationship would be like a hot mess. I used to think if you have butterflies in your stomach, then that's the person, that's the one for you. Okay? With the X Factor, I have butterflies. Baby, now the psychologists are saying that's some sort of trauma response. You need to run because that's not normal. Something is going on with your system if you think you got butterflies, or if all of a sudden you tumbling down when you see somebody. So I knew Marianne was in trouble when she took that tumble, and John, galloped on his horse and went and got her. So it looked like he talked to her. He said he intends to propose to her, but baby, John doesn't. John actually got some other girl pregnant somewhere else. Plus, she catches him at a party once they're back in London. Catches him at a party with another woman. Yes, even in the 1800s, there were F-boys. Oh my goodness. Thank you for validating that. Okay, Jane Austen. Because you just think it's like a 2024 thing or something like COVID-19 that just came out of nowhere. But they have been here since the dawn of time, and John is that representation. So even though the Colonel is feeling Marianne, Marianne is feeling John, John is just being a playboy, and he needs to worry about his inheritance. And right now, the Dashwood sisters ain't got no money, so he ain't really trying to feel on Marianne for reals. So later on, Marianne realizes the Colonel is really the best pick for her. He's an honorable man, and that's who she needs to go with. But what's going on with our leads? Baby, it just seemed like it would take forever to get our leads together. So apparently, Edward, he would be disowned if he married a woman that didn't have a penny to her name. And right now, the Dashwood sisters, they are beautiful to look at, but they ain't got the coins. They don't got the quans. And that's very important in the 1800s times. Baby, it's probably important in 2024, okay? So... So now we find out that John, Edward and Eleanor do have chemistry, but Eleanor finds out that John has been, why I keep calling him John? Oh, my goodness. We find out that Edward has already been betrothed. He has been engaged for 4 years to some black lady named Lucy, okay? So we know, okay, he's feeling the chocolate because he is still engaged to a black woman. But what does this mean for Eleanor? She's heartbroken, but she says Edward's still an honorable guy, even though his terrible sister, Fanny, is ruined the Dashwood sisters' lives by encouraging her husband / their stepbrother to not give them their inheritance. Eleanor is still trying to maneuver. She's like, I love Edward, but here I'm just going to let this thing play out because he met Lucy 4 years before he ever met me. They're engaged. I'm just going to respect it. So Edward and Fanny's stepmom, who happened to be in this movie, another black woman, she literally lets him know that he will get cut off if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do and marry whoever she wants him to marry, a woman with some money. Okay? And since he's not planning on doing that, it looks like him and Lucy are just going to run off. But only thing is, I could smell the gold digger on Miss Lucy, honey. Turns out Miss Lucy ends up marrying Edward's brother because he ends up getting the inheritance from the stepmom. And so the stepmom enjoyed just sticking it to Edward, baby. And it was just a mess and a mess and a mess. So in the last 5 minutes, Edward pops himself up at the little cottage out in the country and he proposes to Eleanor. And we're like, where the hell have you been for most of this movie? We thought you was there with Miss Lucy, but now he's got eyes only for Eleanor. He's going to propose, and we see at the end of the movie that he makes her a lady, his wife. He makes it official. Eleanor and Edward do get together. So I told you what my critique of this movie is. Not enough of the two leads seeing each other. And I get it that it's trying to follow the book as much as possible. But this is exactly why I feel like Hallmark should have continued to step out of the box like they did with the first 3 Jane Austen theme movies. I know some people don't enjoy that. But I just feel like trying to pack all of Sense and Sensibility into 2 hours with some long commercial breaks, that wasn't going to work, babe. That just wasn't going to work. And that's why I'm giving this movie an 8 out of 10. There were certain parts just seemed so unfinished to me. And I understand it's because they're trying to follow the book the best they can. But if they had taken some creative liberties and even made this just as funny as they did in American and Austen, I think we really could have had that Bridgerton feel. People forget Bridgerton is not just about mixing the races, right? We love that utopian society look, even though we know that racism is still something that is in the backbone of these aristocratic societies. But also Bridgerton had the passion. And Hallmark, they could have delivered at least a PG-13 passion. Give me something. It's February, it's Lovuary, like give me something. So I didn't really see the passion, though I do feel all the characters that got together did have chemistry, but I just needed more. I think if Hallmark had taken some creative differences with this, it could have been great. It could have been great. They took some risks this month. Some people liked it, some people don't, but playing it this safe and then using such a diversified cast was just setting this movie up for people to critique it like so harshly and say it's not as good as the book, or it's not as good as the 90s movie, or it's not. Well, it's Hallmark. Like I said, I'm waiting for my ex-boyfriend mechanic that I'm now in love with once I left the big city that I'm going to be in a small town and raise chickens with to call me right now. It's Hallmark, people. Anyway, it's KJM and I'm out. Giving this movie an 8 out of 10 and I'm out. You guys have